What's up, YouTube? Minato Namikaze back again for our stream. And I wanted to bring up what it's like growing up playing Pokemon. Now, I'm going to be explaining my feelings towards every generation, because saying that every generation was the same for me would be a blatant lie. Each one has its own unique feel. Hello! Yeah, you don't have to worry about being in the stream. Everything will be rewatchable because I upload the stream afterwards. But Gen 1. Now, I can't say I was too fond of the original Gen 1. So I'm going to talk about how each game impacted me. So first off will be the Gen 1 games. Red, blue, and yellow. We didn't have green over here in America, so I didn't get to play that one. But I remember spending a lot of time not really building a team as much as trying to find my favorite Pokemon, and ended up doing so and then building a team out of nothing but just nostalgic Pokemon from Gen 1. I will mention that I didn't get to play Gen 1 first, so me finding Gen 1 Pokemon and only using like my favorites was just what I chose to do. Gen 2 was actually where I started, and I'm just gonna say this, Gen 2 is by far my favorite. Crystal was my favorite Pokemon game of all time, and was actually the first I'd ever completed to a 100% of the game's Pokedex. I got everything that was catchable. And that was cool for a while, but then I started building a team for a little bit of a more competitive scene. And then just ended up never finishing the breeding for it. So mainly because DBs were just too much. I just wasn't a fan of them. Let's move on to Gen 3. Gen 3 actually has a lot of my favorite Pokemon. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not talking about the impact, but I'm going to cover each. So, yeah, let's go. Gen 1 didn't really impact me as much, but it did kindle my love for Pokemon. Gen 2 made me kind of care about the Pokemon I was going after, because it was more than just building, it was definitely trying to make me see a more competitive side of the game, though. Gen 3 was actually one of the only generations I didn't really play in the original version of until way late. Fun fact is my actual first full playthrough of Gen 3 on a physical version of the game wasn't until ORAS. So kind of weird. Actually, the Pokemon game I played on the Game Boy Advance, which was of the Gen 3 games, was actually Fire Red and Leaf Green, Gen 1 again, and really, really fun. Gen 3 does have one of my favorite Pokemon in Gardevoir, and Mega Gardevoir was just awesome for X and Y, and I still want to go back to using Mega Gardevoir because it's just so cool. Anyways, moving forward, the I'm gonna kind of branch off into Colosseum and XD Gale Darkness. These games actually were kind of my first actual like full-fledged experience of playing extremely competitively. I was so focused on trying to catch Pokemon that had good EVs and IVs. I was soft resetting for possible shinies. I spent a lot of time playing those games, and those are actually two of my favorite generations of games. Well, they're not really in a generation because they are a spin-off game, but they are still like I spent a lot of time with them, and actually probably have the fondest memories of them. And why I still, when I get a chance, load up XD Gale of Darkness. I have it on the emulator now, but I used to have it on disc, and I still end up playing it here and there. So Gen 4, and unlike most people, Gen 4 didn't impact me like most people. And it's weird. Okay, so let me explain Gen 4 Diamond and Pearl. I wasn't really a fan of Diamond and Pearl. Like, I played them and they were extremely fun, but I just didn't enjoy playing them, I guess. It was because the story just seemed so overblown. And I think it was more or less this was the time where I was starting to get extremely into the whole competitive scene and trying to build an OU team, and ended up succeeding in doing so, but never actually finished the story. Kind of rough. Um, Moving on to Platinum, and I want to bring up now. I didn't mention Crystal or the third game in like Emerald because they didn't really have any different impact. But Platinum had an impact on me that kind of was a weird thing for my first time actually sitting down and playing it. It impacted me in there's darkness in the world, but if you have good intentions, you can get through the bad intention, bad dark time, I guess. I don't really know why that's kind of the lesson I learned from that, but it kind of just has stuck with me. Gen 4 has been kind of a big influence on me. Maybe not Diamond and Pearl, but Platinum especially with like the Giratina and the Dark World area, and like them explaining like, oh well, like this thing is not good, and you know the world's gonna like it was just really symbolic. It was like a really symbolic entry into the game series in my opinion, and I see it as it was just really compelling and kind of shaped my teenage years. um Soul Silver and Heart Gold, I can't really say too much about these. I did play them. They were the remakes of Gen 2. But I found myself spending more time looking for the nostalgic portions of the game. And I actually really thoroughly just enjoyed getting to see some of my old Pokemon again that I hadn't got to use since Gen 2. Because, yes, I did get to transfer my stuff up to Gen 5, but I didn't get to do that until I didn't get to start transferring my stuff up until I got Gen 5 games came out. Speaking of Gen 5, let's talk about how Pokemon White and Black person affected me. These games impacted me in a little bit different than I thought they were going to. Mainly the character In. Now, In had this ideal that Pokemon should not be caught. You should love yes, you should love Pokemon, but putting them in Pokeballs was kind of felt like you were entrapping them. And even now to this day, like going up against in the battle of ideals, because the only reason Pokeballs are a tool for you to be able to use the Pokemon to help you, not as your slave, but as your partner and as a way for you to become stronger with them, as well as make them stronger and be able to overcome any obstacle. And I think that those like ideals and me genuinely feeling the same way that I feel like the protagonist would feel, it felt like my adventure. Now moving on to Black X and Y. Now I'm not going to talk about Black and White 2 because they were basically the same thing. The same kind of impact, although I will state that I will always hate Getsus because of these games. I will always hate him. Sorry, it's just me. However, let's look at X and Y. X and Y is actually one of my favorite entries into the series, but did not really impact my life the way I thought it was going to. Seems to be a common thing with these games. So I actually didn't expect anything from this game, but I found a more casual love for the game over any of the other ones. And that sounds weird, but I should kind of explain. So first off, there's no real after game. Yes, there is the looker missions, but that's not really an after game. That's more or less just something they kind of shoehorned in there. And it was fun. I enjoyed getting to see Looker again. I mean, I'm a huge Gen 4 fan. And seeing Looker again was just, it brought back so many memories of my Sinnoh team. And I actually ran my Sinnoh team in X and Y because, especially during those missions, because it felt right. It felt so nostalgic. And we finally made it to that point where we were able to, see Looker again and use the same team I used back in Platinum. It was real nice. It was exciting, and I definitely was happy about that. Now, moving on to ORAS. ORAS actually didn't impact me. I've said that to all of these, but like, let's be honest, none of these impacted me the way I thought they were going to. ORAS, I'm just gonna say it, Alpha Sapphire was my first playthrough of ORAS. And going back through Hoenn with Mega Evolutions made me just want to rebuild my Gen 3 team. I rebuilt my Gen 3 team to an extent. I did change up a couple things. I didn't run Flygon or Salamence because Bagon required a trade, and Flygon, I just wasn't going to spend the time for it. but I used like Latios, which I never got a chance to use prior. And I used my Gen 3 starter, Mudkip, but it was extremely fun. I actually played through Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which was different, especially because I'm not used to playing through both versions of the game. Moving on to Sun and Moon, not Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Those impacted me different than Sun and Moon did. Sun and Moon definitely hit me as the people that you run with can ultimately alter the outcome of what you will become. I know that's something that you would not think you would get from this game, but Team Skull, prime example. And mainly Guzma. Guzma in the beginning is an a-hole, straight up. Team Skull bugging you all the time. But never once did I see Team Skull as like the bad guys. They were a bunch of fun-loving idiots. Yes, they were stealing Pokemon and causing problems, but they were just like they were comedic. They weren't bad people. They were just stupid people doing bad things because honestly, I don't think they knew any better. And especially like Guzma's personality, like they never really explain why Guzma's like the way he is, but the way that it kind of comes across is something had happened that had kind of changed his path during his island adventure, and even going into Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and I'll further this now with Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I did struggle with it for some fucking reason. I think it was because I wasn't grinding. But let me kind of explain what I got out of this game. And this game was kind of the same lesson, but completely flipped on its head. So Ultra Moon was the one I played through, and I'd never really seen Guzma as a bad guy. And even in Ultra Moon, like I was excited to reface him. And there was a comment from one of the NPCs in the game, Hal, your rival, and he asked Guzma where he met his Glistlopod, and Guzma says that he met it on his island adventure, and it was his friend. He's been with him for so long, like, and that kind of reminded me, like, there's one Pokemon that it didn't matter the playthrough. I found a way to take him with me, even if it wasn't me taking him in the journey. And that's Tyranitar. I don't know what it is about this Pokemon or why I've had him in every game, but I kind of get it. I really do. Tyranitar has been with me in every playthrough of every game in some way, shape, or form. And if I couldn't get Tyranitar, I would trade him up because it was the sentimental thing. Me and Tyranitar were just through everything together. And I want to bring up the fact that whereas I have played Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, And I am prepared to play through Sword and Shield. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee didn't impact me the way at all. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I couldn't take my partner into Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I know that's kind of a petty thing because Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is only supposed to be the first generation of Pokemon, but it bothers me. I mean, in Generation 1, yeah, I couldn't get him, but I started basically in Generation 2 as, like, actually caring about the series. Because Gen 1 was broken and just really not fun. Even then, like, Gen 1 just... I had Venusaur, and Venusaur was another one of those Pokemon I kind of try and get in every playthrough in some way, shape, or form. If I can't get it, I'll either trade it up or I will find someone who has one to trade it to me. It feels kind of empty not having Tyranitar in Sword and Shield, especially because Sword and Shield's not going to have the national dex, and there's no guarantee that I can take my partner into that game. So where do I go from here? I'm going to use whatever I can to play through that game. But until Game Freak either gives us back the national dex or doesn't, like, doing what Sun and Moon did, where yes, you can get every Pokemon from the previous games transferred up, but it's not in the Pokédex. I think doing that instead of just saying that some Pokemon just aren't compatible is kind of a mistake. I understand Game Freak trying to push out the games, and apparently Pokemon is not their primary focus, but it kind of feels like it's going to be missing. This video, I'm doing a video of my Gen 1 team, and I am currently editing that one and working on it, so I wanted to let you guys know that one will be out as soon as physically possible. And I want to thank you guys for your continued support. It has been a big help to my channel. It has been a big help to the community. Minto Namikaze signing off. And by the way, I'm wearing my SpongeCore shirt today. You're seeing this, and you're probably seeing like SpongeBob here. Yeah, this is my SpongeCore shirt. So, peace.